Okay, now on to experiment 5. So that's the second experiment in your remote repository set of experiments. So this is experiment 5. Last experiment, we cloned a repository. We will use the same clone repository over here. Let's see what the experiment is about. So collaboration and remote repository, fetch the latest changes from a remote repository and rebase your local branches onto the updated remote branch. So that's a requirement. So I'll explain the concept of rebase as we get started. And we need to get started by replicating or cloning a repository. So we'll do that over here. Okay, so we'll create a directory for our experiment, exp5, cd exp5, and we're going to clone the repository by saying git clone. I need the repository link. So I'm using clone one. So we'll copy the link, go to my command prompt and paste that link over here. Okay, paste that link over here. So it's going to clone the repository, which is going to create a folder called as clone one. So let's go into clone one. Okay, and here is our app.txt, which is there in the file. This is the same clone which we used in our last experiment, experiment 4. Now, under this experiment, this is what we are going to do. We are going to, so we clone the repository. So this is the local setup. The remote is Gitya, where we created that clone, which you saw in the last experiment and saw just now when we copied the link, right? So what are we going to do? We are going to use the command rebase. So rebase can be split into two. One, rebase. Basically, um, reinitialize your repository with all the changes from your remote. And then on top of that, commit your local changes. Okay. So again, I'm repeating that. What rebase does is rebase reinitialize your repository by getting all the changes which are there in the remote. It gets all the changes which are there in the remote. And on top of that, applies your local changes so that your local changes will include all changes which are coming from the remote. So that's the concept of rebase. Okay. So what I need to really do in this case is I need to create a change over here locally to the file, which I will do by saying echo, because I'm overwriting the file. I will say hello India, and I will commit the changes to app.txt, right? I'm going to go ahead and commit the changes by saying git add dot or app.text and git commit -m, um, local changes to local changes to local changes to app.txt. Okay, a meaningful sentence. Done. So just local changes are done. Did that go through? Why is it not responding? Let's check. Okay, so the local changes are done. We can see the changes over here. You can look at the git log by saying git log minus one line is more helpful. So you can see the local changes are also over here. There are separate changes which are done locally, but the other changes have come from your origin. Origin is your remote repository. Okay, so this has been done. Now, what I want to really do is I have made a change locally, but I want to make one more change on the remote, right? And when I do a rebase, the local change will be applied after applying the second remote change. So there is already one remote change, this, right? Now I'm going to go to the remote repository on Gitya and make a change. And then I'm going to come here and then say rebase, which will apply the remote change one and then the remote change two. And on top of that, it will apply the local change, which I've already made. Okay. So let's go to the remote repository. I'm going to restructure this. So here's my app.txt. I'm going to open app.txt, go into a edit file mode, and over here, make a change. Okay. Now there'll be a conflict in this case because I already have a change locally. We're going to resolve that conflict as a part of this rebase process, right? I can avoid the conflict also, right? But in this case, I will create a conflict and resolve it because you'll also learn how to resolve the conflict. So I'm saying hello Asia. In my local file, I have said hello India. So I'll say second, it's happening again. So I'm going to say a second change. My remote repository is not responding. Let me just check that. Okay, so we're going to change this as second change from remote. Okay, commit the changes. So changes have been commit. You can see the two lines over here. You can click on the history here to see those details also. So history shows me the details. I'm all good. So two changes have been done. Now I really want to move to my local repository to finish the changes, right? So now there's a change locally and there's also a change on the remote repository. So what we do is we run the command to fetch all changes over here. This is a new command. So git fetch origin is the command. So yeah, git fetch origin, which basically is saying get the latest details from the origin. So we're going to run that change. So it's bought that change locally. Okay. So it does not apply the change particularly. It's got the change locally. I still have to apply it. So I want to see the difference between these two. So I run git log minus minus one line. So it has applied the changes minus minus one line, minus minus graph, minus minus all. Okay. So you can see there is a diversion over here. I have made some changes here locally, which is my local changes, but the remote changes are two. First change, second change. Now, what I really want to do is apply my local change after the remote change. Okay. You can see the sequence over here. 1, 2, and 3. I want to change the sequence to 1, 2, and then 3. Because the whole idea behind the rebase operation is that you're going to get all changes from the remote repository first, and on that, apply your local changes. Where is this helpful? This is helpful when every developer comes into his workspace every day morning, fetches all the latest changes, and then starts working on the changes that he wants to do, right? So as a practice, when you are using Git or any other version control, you always fetch all the changes from your remote first. Ensure your code base is updated. If as a part of that, you need to resolve some conflict, you resolve that and ensure your code base is up to date. And then on top of that, commit your local changes. And that can be done by one simple command, that is git rebase. In this case, we'll run the command git rebase origin slash name. So let's see what it does. Okay. So it has created the conflict. The conflict has been created because in my local file, my second line has hello India. But on my remote file, my second line has hello Asia. So I want to resolve the conflict. So you can see over here, it's trying to auto merge and then it realizes there's a conflict. Merge conflict is there in app.txt. It says I cannot apply the changes until you resolve the conflict, and it gives me a hint saying resolve all conflicts manually and then run git add, and then then after running git add, then run git rebase, continue in order to make those commits. Let's do that. In order to understand the conflict, in this case, I'll open up the file in notepad app.txt. So you can see this is how the conflict is represented. Anything above this line equal to, I hope you can see this on the screen. I cannot increase the size of the fonts right now, but I hope you can see that on the screen. Let me try increasing the screen size. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. So what it basically says is that the head, which is my head right now, head is my local. My local has my head right now is my remote, and my local right now is Hello World and Hello India. Is that how it is? Yes. So the one which I'm trying to merge with is my local. So my local has Hello India. So I need to modify the file. So I need to remove these characters which are there as a part of the conflict. So conflict creates these characters, which basically shows me what is the difference in the older file and the new file. So what I really want in my file is this combination, this sequence of Hello World, Hello Asia, and Hello India. So I'm going to remove all other conflict related information, and I'm going to make the file the way I want it. So when you are using code, somebody would have written a different line of code uh, just at the place where you have written the code. So you'll have to speak to that other person and resolve and decide together which is the final line of code which will go into your code file. In this case, it is simple text, and I have resolved it by removing all those conflict aspects and saving it. I have saved it. Now, once I have saved it, I'll say git app.txt done, and then I'll say git rebase minus minus continue, because I have resolved the conflicts. Please finish the rebase operation which you started. So rebase opens up a file where it gives me a meaningful text, local changes to app.text. I'm fine with those commands. I save it. And so this is a commit message, right? So, and I'll close the file. It's gone ahead and added those changes. Now is the time to verify this. We're going to run git log and verify the same. So what I want you to note now is that earlier this local commit 9540723 was at second location. The remote repository had overwritten that over it. But now when I bring the changes back in, right? So now you can note that the remote changes have been applied first. The remote changes have been applied. Both the remote changes have been applied. And on top of that, the local change, which I just did after resolving the conflict, that has been applied. So this experiment is about the Git command git rebase, which basically allows you to update your local repository with the latest changes from the remote repository, and then on top apply the local changes which you have done. Okay, so this is the experiment for rebase. Let's look at the problem statement again. Fetch the latest changes from the report repository and rebase your local branch onto the updated remote branch. So now my local branch includes the change from the remote branch, and on top of that, my change has been added. So this is the functionality of rebase. What happens is that Git temporarily removes the local commits, updates the branch with the latest changes from your origin/main, that is your remote repository, and then reapplies your local commits on top of that. So this is what has happened in this case. And this is the fifth experiment, which is focusing on rebase. Yep. Thank you. I hope you have understood this. Great. I'll see you in the next experiment.